All right, so this is a really important video. There's a lot of confusion with people on the road about the different types of lights you might encounter. So please know the difference between these lights. So we've got primarily three different types of lights you can encounter as you're coming up to make a turn at an intersection. You've got the regular light, which is a 3-circle light. So if you get a solid green light, we can turn left only when our path is clear of oncoming traffic and pedestrians. Otherwise, we aim to wait in the waiting position until a safe gap presents itself or the light turns to yellow. Okay, so if the light turns to yellow, if we are already in the waiting position, we will take our foot off the brake to start inching forward in a straight line and clearing the intersection when the oncoming traffic is clearly showing signs of slowing down to stop behind their stop line. If we're not yet in the intersection, we will safely stop for the yellow light behind our stop line. We do not start a new turn on a yellow light unless we're already in that waiting position in the intersection. Okay, and with a solid red light, we cannot turn left on a red light onto a two-way road. So most roads are a two-way road. If it's a one-way road, you're permitted to make a left turn after you've made your stop at the red light, but you have to exercise lots of caution because the traffic could be flowing in the crossroad. Okay, but let's not confuse the one-way streets for now. Let's just say we cannot turn left on a red light onto a two-way road, and we cannot go into a waiting position to turn left on a red light. If we were already inching forward on a yellow light and had to momentarily stop for someone that was running a yellow or red light, we're permitted to complete our turn even if the light is now red. Okay, so if you've come into the intersection, you start inching forward on your yellow and someone just came through on the red and you ended up having to make the turn right after them, that's fine, because it wasn't your fault for taking longer to clear the intersection. You just had to wait till it's safe before you do it. Now let's compare this with the advanced turn signals. This is the 4-circle light. Okay, so as you're approaching the intersection, pay attention to how many circles this light has. And if it's a flashing green arrow, it's telling you, okay, you can start a new turn. Right now, nobody else at this intersection has a right of way but you. So always scan the intersection to make sure it's clear, but don't hesitate too much. As you can see, the other lights they can be green or red. So sometimes you're coming up with a flashing green light and you have a solid green with it, or sometimes you have a flashing green arrow and you have a red light. That's just these three lights at this point right now are saying whether you can go straight or not, right? So yes, you can go straight or you can turn left on the green arrow, or right now it's red, so you can't go straight, but you can take a left at this intersection. Don't get confused as to why they're on when you have a green arrow and you're planning on making a turn. Okay, so green arrow, don't hesitate too much to make the turn, scan and go. But if you're coming up to the intersection and it's a solid yellow arrow, if you're already in the intersection making a turn, go ahead and complete your turn. But if you're not, then don't start a new turn. Instead, go into the waiting position and treat the situation as if you have a green light at the regular intersection lights, right? So if you're coming up and you're approaching the intersection, green arrow, green arrow, green arrow, and then it turns to a solid yellow arrow. If you're already in the intersection, go ahead and finish the turn. But if you haven't entered into the intersection, then just treat the situation as if now you have a regular green light. And we just talked about what we need to do there. So if there's oncoming traffic, go into the waiting position. If there's no oncoming traffic and there's no pedestrians on the left side crossing, then you can go ahead and finish your turn off. Okay. Now, from that point on, because the arrows are gone, after the yellow arrow there's no more arrows here, and now it's just acting like a regular intersection light. So all the steps we just talked about here apply. Okay, so so far we've covered the regular light, the advanced light, and then we've got the protected turn signals. Okay, so these ones will say left turn signal right beside the light, somewhere above it or below it or beside it. And these ones generally are a solid green arrow. So it's saying you can start a new turn. But after the solid green arrow, this arrow disappears and it turns into a regular yellow light. And if it's a solid yellow, then if you're already in the intersection, complete your turn. If you're not in the intersection, stop safely behind the stop line and wait for the next green arrow. This type of light does not have a waiting position. This is really important, right? So don't mistake this protected turn signal with an advanced turn signal just because they both have arrows with them. This is a 3-circle light with a sign beside it saying this is a left turn signal. This is a 4-circle light that sometimes gives you an advance, and then once the advance is done, it's just acting like a regular intersection light, and you will be able to go into a waiting position if you need to wait for oncoming traffic. But let's focus on this again. Once the solid yellow arrow is done, it goes to a red light, and then red means stop completely. You must remain stopped behind the stop line until you get a green arrow again to make that turn. Okay, so 3 different types of lights, and I see a lot of confusion on the road, even from people that have their licenses. They'll come into an intersection where as they've approached, the green arrow went to a solid arrow and then it disappeared, and it's just acting like a regular intersection light, and they won't go into the waiting position to wait for oncoming traffic. They'll just sit behind the stop line until the light turns to red, and then they wait till they get another flashing green arrow to go. That is incorrect, right? So whenever we can on the green arrow, we need to get committed to the intersection so that we can try to make the turn on this cycle of the light. This light over here instead, the protected, yes, this is the one where you're either turning left because you have a green arrow or you're not turning. Okay, so I understand the differences between the 3 types of lights so that you're not confused on the road.